Hi, my name's Lily and I'm an editorial manager at Ladybird Education, which is a part of Penguin Random House.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. This week we're looking at editorial again, and Lily Ross is going to tell us more about what it is to be an editorial manager at Penguin Random House or the Ladybird imprint. Hope you find it useful and enjoy.
So as an editorial manager, my job is kind of split into three areas, I would say. So the first thing is really detailed editorial work. There are kind of two different types of editorial. They're not always two separate teams, but they are in Penguin Random House Children's. So we have the commissioning editorial team, and their job, probably more widely known outside publishing, they're looking at which books we should publish, which authors we should commission, and they would then be working with the author to get the manuscript written. They also deal with any kind of wider issues of things like characterization or plot that are kind of really fundamental to the whole book. Once the manuscript is in a pretty good state, it would then come over to me in the managing editorial team to copy edit. This really involves looking at a slightly more detailed level, things like grammar, punctuation, spelling, consistency throughout, timeline and structure. Within educational publishing, you might be looking to make sure that the language is appropriate for the age level, that any questions or exercises are consistently worded throughout the book. You also might be checking artwork briefs for an illustrated book to make sure they make sense and are really clear for the illustrator. Once the copy edit has finished, it would then be up to me to resolve any queries that come back from that. So it would normally be a freelance copy editor who's actually done the copy edit themselves. And I would kind of commission them and work with them, and they would send me their finished work, which would normally be kind of track changes in a Word document, and I would answer as many queries as possible. Sometimes if they have spotted something a bit bigger or more fundamental, I would go back to the commissioning editor and maybe the author to get that resolved. And then we would kind of prepare the manuscript for design. So this might be making sure that, particularly for educational books that have, really specific layouts, specific design instructions and artwork briefs, making sure that all of that is really clearly laid out, artworks are numbered correctly, all that sort of stuff. So once the manuscript's in a really clean state, there's no comments, no unresolved track changes, we would then pass it over to the design team. Once design have laid it all out, they produce a PDF and it circulates amongst the teams. Normally for me in education, it goes to the commissioning editor, to me, the editorial manager, and also to the designer. And there might also be kind of more senior people like the publisher or the editorial director, and also the art director, who's kind of the head of the design team, who also look at the layouts and kind of add their comments to it. We're all looking for slightly different things. Sometimes we might be picking up on the same sort of stuff, but for me, it's really kind of the first layouts, comparing them against the manuscript, making sure that all the text has been set exactly how it should be, italics, bold, everything like that no text has been missed out, making sure that all the design instructions have been followed and all the artwork briefs have been realised into, proper artwork. And normally at that first layout, it would just be pencil sketches rather than final artwork. So there are some things that you just don't realise at copy edit because they kind of don't exist until layout. You might just have too many words on a page, which we call overmatter. So we might be looking to cut back some text, or you might rejig the layout if the artwork just isn't working alongside the text. The designer then takes in all the corrections. One of my jobs is to collate everybody's comments together and to make sure all the queries are answered, so that when design take in all the corrections, it's just a really clean set of instructions for them. The designer takes in all the corrections, and then the next layouts would be produced, and when I'm looking at those, my first job is to check that all the previous corrections were all taken in completely accurately and that nothing was missed. And I would also normally send out those layouts to a freelance proofreader. So a proofreader is looking similar things to a copy editor in terms of grammar, punctuation, spelling. They're also looking for any design errors or mistakes, and they're really kind of looking very, very detailed into the very minute details of kind of everything on the page, checking page numbers, contents, the imprint page that has all the copyright information, kind of everything goes through a really thorough check. And that process kind of continues really. The layouts gradually get more and more refined and clean. until we get to the files that we're happy to send on to production, and it would be my job as well as the designers to sign off those files to print, which I find the scariest part of my job. I'm always terrified there's going to be a mistake in there that I've missed. That's the kind of editorial side of things. The second aspect of my day-to-day job is project management. The layouts and the manuscripts and then the layouts going through all those rounds, there are a lot of different stakeholders, particularly in educational publishing. You might have all sorts of freelance consultants or subject experts who are also reviewing things for you, and there's a lot of kind of timing that needs to be gotten right. You know, we work in series. I've never worked on just one book at a time. It normally tends to be 10, 20, sometimes 70 or 100 books that are all publishing on the exact same day. So it takes a lot of project management to make sure all the books get to where they need to be at the right time. Towards the beginning of the project, I'm involved in scheduling, which is a really big collaboration with other teams. Sales team advising on pub date, you know, when customers want it, when they're likely to need to buy the books. Production team, so how long they need to print the books and get them into the warehouse and to ship them and everything. Commissioning team to make sure that they've got enough time to write, for the author to write the book and then for them to edit the manuscript. And also, of course, the design team in terms of how long they need for each layout stage and for the illustrators to create the artwork. So there's a lot of different components to take into account with the scheduling. We schedule in kind of big batches and we try and make sure that the batches don't overlap too much. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle and it involves quite a lot of negotiation. Throughout the project, it would be my job to keep the schedule up to date, to kind of tweak it or flex it if anything goes wrong or comes in late, and to kind of hopefully have built in some contingency in case that happens. And also the other side would be budgeting. So as I mentioned, we tend to use freelance copy editors and proofreaders, also sometimes freelance project managers or fact checkers or other people. So at the beginning of a project, it's really important that I estimate how much each of those freelancers is going to cost us. That gets accounted for when the commissioning editor is looking for financial sign-off for the project. The third aspect of my role is the sort of list management. Being an editorial manager, I don't just work on any one project. I look across the Ladybird education list and I line manage two people who are also managing their own projects at the same time. It's my job, with the help of my manager, who's the head of the editorial management team, to look at resourcing, project allocation, looking at that kind of strategy of when we might use freelancers, when we might do things in-house, managing kind of workload, looking at workflows and processes. A lot of editorial management is slightly more kind of operations-y. What stages a book needs to go through, how we can make sure it's the best possible quality, how we can make things really efficient, the ways we can use to shave off time off of a schedule. So there's a lot of kind of logistics and planning that goes into looking on a far broader level across the list and across the whole year, and how we're going to kind of achieve the publication of as many books as we have that year. And obviously in with that is the line management side of it, which is a really important part of the role as well. Might not be included in all editorial manager roles, but is in some, and obviously that takes really careful thought and consideration as well. On a day-to-day basis, it's really a mix of all three. I could be doing anything from really hands-on proofreading to catching up with people, having meetings, solving problems seems to be a big thing. So something's come in late or someone can't deliver on time, and trying to kind of flex a schedule, or helping one of my line reports, you know, problem solve on one of their projects. A lot of meetings, a lot of kind of collaboration and talking to people. But there is a lot of kind of hands-on editorial work still, and I really enjoy the mix of those two sides of things. I might also be doing kind of planning, so scheduling for an individual project, or planning for the kind of year ahead, looking at resourcing and things like that. And that would be my kind of day-to-day work. There are the kind of technical skills. Copy editing and proofreading are things that you can train to do. There are lots of different courses run by companies like the Publishing Training Centre where you can learn those kind of basic skills. Then it really is just about practicing and developing them over time. Proofreading, I would say it's about the BSI proofreading marks, which is a kind of language of symbols that we use to mark up. Similarly, copy editing tends to be done kind of on Word using track changes, so word skills are probably quite important. And the technical side of things, you know, the editorial eye is really about having a very, very good eye for detail, being willing to spend kind of hours poring over something. Obviously, really strong grammar is important, knowledge of kind of how punctuation works, but also how to bend the rules. You know, it's not just about learning all the rules off by heart and then forcing every single author to write in the same way. You know, you have to have a real understanding of an author's voice and how to edit to be conscious of that. Organisation is huge, not just being organised, but loving organisation. Having an awareness of the market is really important. And the final thing I'd say is communication and relationship building. So I think reading really, really widely and paying attention to grammar structures, to vocabulary, to kind of how an author chooses their words is really important. If you can, you might want to attend training sessions on things like copy editing or proofreading. You could also have a look online at the BSI proofreading symbols and just kind of teach yourself what each of the symbols means. Really get to grips with the market that you want to go into. So if you're interested in educational publishing, you know, look at the websites of educational publishers, look at the types of series that they publish, take opportunities to develop your organisational skills. I think if I was interviewing somebody for an entry-level position, then them having experience of having organised something in an extracurricular sense, even if it was something like an event, maybe a newspaper publication or something at university or at school, I think would reflect really, really well on their ability to kind of juggle different things and to manage projects. The one book that I think everybody should read is actually this one here. It's called Lowborn and it's by Kerry Hudson. It tells the story of her growing up in poverty. Throughout the book, she kind of goes back to visit some of the places that she grew up as a child. She moved around a lot between kind of different council flats and B&Bs and also attended lots of different schools. And it's about her kind of processing the trauma of her childhood and trying to kind of come to an understanding of what she'd been through. I think it's a really, really powerful book, a really important book for understanding poverty in the UK, you know, in the modern day. This is a really kind of eye-opening and really moving book, talking about it. It's also just really, really brilliantly and beautifully written. So yeah, I would definitely recommend.
Thanks so much for watching, and remember I post new videos, new interviews every Wednesday with an industry professional, so make sure you check all of the ones out that I've posted so far and hit the bell notification so you don't miss a future one. Thank you for watching, bye.